you should always believe in yourself. And it's important to give new things a try, even if you think you're not going to succeed, even if it's completely outside of your comfort zone. You never know when you're going to find a new passion. And I open it and immediately it says you've been offered a spot. And I was so excited. I was jumping, I was screaming, I was hugging my family. This was such an exciting moment.
Welcome to Frank Stajano Explains. Today's topic is the second part of our chat with the charming Natalie Shell, a successful computer science applicant at Trinity College, Cambridge, who tells us what it was like for her to go through the CSAT and also what she felt when she received that famous acceptance letter. If that's the first you hear about Natalie, I recommend you first watch the first part of this interview in this other video on this channel. This exceptionally enterprising young woman even founded her own non-profit, mathandaiforgirls.org, to encourage other schoolgirls into mathematics and artificial intelligence. Brilliant stuff. If you love Natalie's story as much as I do, please drop a like on her video to tell YouTube that you should show it to others. And now, let's hear it from Natalie. You did choose Trinity, and since you're such an organized person to go as far as making a spreadsheet of all the colleges before deciding which one to apply to, you obviously noticed that in Trinity, you had to jump through an extra hoop, which is the CSAT, which is a test that only Trinity and maybe half a dozen other colleges require you to do, but others don't. This is something that typically puts some people off. They say, well, it's already hard enough to apply to Cambridge. Why should I also go to the trouble of doing an extra test on top of that? Why didn't this put you off?
Sure. So actually, from a young age, I've loved math competitions, as I previously mentioned. And the CSAT did feel a little bit like another math competition. And also, I think it would be a great opportunity for me to showcase my strengths. And I kind of loved how I got to choose questions that, rather than necessarily having to do every single question, the whole point of the CSAT is choosing the questions that I feel the strongest about and the topics that I like. And I thought that was really cool. And I had also just, done the TMUA, and I feel like the CSAT was so much more interesting because I got to make choices of which questions I wanted to do, because the questions were so much more difficult and so much more creative. So I think as a whole, the CSAT was something that encouraged me to choose Trinity rather than a deterrent. And I did do a few practices for the CSAT, and I graded myself, and I was scoring around the low 90s or so. Although I might have been a little bit generous with myself, but I felt pretty good about it. So I thought this is something that I want to do.
All right, very good. Well, it certainly does help to showcase the strongest students, the CSAT. That's why we do it in Trinity. It really is a good method for distinguishing who the best ones are. Now, what was it like for you while you were doing it? Was it harder than what you thought from the preparation, or was it like, now I prepared, I know what it's like and it's exactly what I expected, or were there any surprises? I don't know. Just tell me your experience about doing the CSAT.
Sure. So the first thing was that my CSAT was online and virtual because of the pandemic. So, I got myself set up. I was wearing pajama pants. I surrounded myself with snacks. At math competitions, I have a bit of a reputation for being the girl with 20 snacks. So once I got to the actual problems, I actually recall from one of your videos, one of your students who you interviewed said that she only did questions 1 through 6, which she later regretted because the questions are not necessarily divided by difficulty level. So the first thing I did was read through every question quickly. And my initial plan was to look for questions which fit my strengths, so I could choose questions that I would do well at. However, as soon as I saw the questions, that totally went out the window. There were a couple that looked really fun to me, so I immediately just dived into the questions that looked the most interesting. And as a whole, the 3 hours passed by extremely quickly. The questions, I think, were a little bit more difficult than I had expected, but that made the experience all the more fun. I think the one funny thing was because I had this proctor, right? Because I was doing it online, and midway through, the proctor said, "Okay, please move your computer to show your workspace." And I was looking at my desktop computer. This thing was like 10 pounds, and I had to pick it up and angle it to show my workspace. So I got a bit of a physical workout too there. But as a whole, I love the experience.
In pajama, you were doing all this.
Yeah, mind you, I was very careful to not show my pajama pants while I was moving the computer.
Okay. Yes, I was a bit concerned there. From what you said, did you feel like time ran out before you could do all you wanted to do?
Sure. So I'd initially planned to obviously do as many questions as possible. In the end, I ended up fully completing 6 questions. I had a bit of time at the end, so I began 2 more. I think I definitely would have wanted to do more questions, but with the questions I did do, I feel like I had a pretty strong grasp. So I was reasonably satisfied with the amount of questions that I'd done. And 3 hours is definitely quite a long time.
Yes. So do you feel there would have been other questions that you could technically have done if you had had infinite time?
I think absolutely. If I had infinite time, I would have tried every single question there. Now, some of them would have gone better than others, but I think I would have loved to have done every single question on the test, given infinite time.
I'm not the person who does the questions on the CSAT. I have no input in how the CSAT is done, but the general idea of the design is such that basically nobody could do all the questions because there's a spread of competence that's required that is more than is taught in any school. But it is just precisely so that if you go to one school and you've done a lot of topic X, but not very much of topic Y, then there's going to be some question on topic X that you can do. And if you've instead gone to another school and you've done a lot of topic Y, but not of topic X, and so on, for a variety of different topics. But we never expect anyone to finish all the questions. First of all, because it would take a lot more than 3 hours. And second, because even with infinite time, nobody is expected to have studied all these things by the age of 18. So just doing a selection of questions is fine. And so the strategy that you at least planned on following at the beginning is the correct one, which is look at all the questions, see the ones that you're good at, and do those, concentrate on those, because it's sufficient to do very well in a few questions to send us the signal, oh, this is a candidate we should pay attention to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, personally, like my strengths would probably be logic and combinatorics. So, and those questions do typically look more fun to me, which is maybe why I've done more of them, and they have become my strengths over the years. So definitely look out for what you've learned and what you feel strongest with, to all of the students watching this video.
Yes. So after doing that proctored exam in your pajamas and so on, separately on another day, you had an interview with me and another colleague where we asked you to go into greater depth into some problems. Yes. And how did you feel that? Was there a lot of pressure for the face-to-face contact? Was this what you expected the interview would be like?
Sure. So I felt pretty well prepared before the interview because Trinity had hosted a session where we got to talk to students who were currently at Trinity. In particular, I talked to Anna Dolinar, who was actually in one of your videos, Professor Stajano, and I asked her a ton of questions about the Cambridge experience, about the application, about a lot about the interview and about the CSAT, and I felt more prepared for what was going to be there. And I had a sense that it would be a lot more academic than some of the American universities' interviews. And once I got to the interview itself, I remember the first thing you asked me was actually about my fireplace. I was a little bit caught off guard with that one. But we soon dived into the CSAT. The first question that I was asked, kind of directly relating to the CSAT, was to choose a problem that I felt good about and talk more about that question. And there was a couple questions that I felt really strongly about. But there was one thing that really stuck on my mind, which is there's a question that I had loved, but I had made a mistake and I was kicking myself over it. So I actually pulled up that question and I answered it, and I tried to do it correctly this time. And he said excellent, which I took as a good sign. And then we moved on, and you decided to hit me with a question that I had chosen not to do. And that moment that floored me a little bit. But once we got to the question, and this was a question I saw and I immediately skipped over after 5 seconds, because I was like, oh, this equation looks a bit intimidating. Maybe not. But once we got to doing that question, I discovered that it was a really cool problem, and I had a great time in the interview.
Very good. Okay. So after all this was done, there was a rather long wait. I mean, there was the Christmas holidays and so on. And then it was only towards maybe the end of January that you heard from Trinity, right?
That's right, 25th.
So, yeah, tell me exactly what happened in that moment. How did you hear about it? What was your reaction?
Okay, sure. So because I'm an international student in the US, this thing came in at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. I knew it would come in around that time. So the whole night I was, tossing and turning in bed, and I really wanted to open it. But I wanted to also wait until my whole family was there so we could, all open it together. So finally, 6 a.m. in the morning, I jump out of bed. Sure enough, it is there. I open it up on the computer and I usher my whole family downstairs. My dad is still halfway eating his cereal. So finally, I open the email and it says there is a document attached with the decision. And immediately, I'm thinking we got to look for the keywords like congratulations, you're accepted, or, I'm sorry, unable to offer you admission. And I open it and immediately it says you've been offered a spot. And I was so excited. I was jumping, I was screaming, I was hugging my family. This was such an exciting moment. It took me so long to calm down and finally eventually read the rest of it. And actually, even then, there was a bit of excitement and confusion because I was trying to figure out what the terms of admissions were, right? Like what score I need to get on my AP exams, which are, America's big end of year exams, or, my finals. Eventually, I realized that this was an unconditional offer, which, cue another round of jumping excitement from me and my family. And that morning, I went to school, rushed in, and my mom had bought me a Cambridge sweatshirt, and she'd hidden it. And as soon as I got in, she handed it to me. So I, wore that to school, like, good morning, everyone. So it was extremely exciting for the whole family.
That's fantastic. That's really, really good to hear. Well, you certainly earned it.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So if you do turn up here in October, which I certainly hope you do, then what do you look forward the most to?
Sure. So obviously, immediately the thing is the classes. I love how the thing about Cambridge is that I get to focus entirely on computer science and study it completely in depth, and also to be able to branch out and try kind of different fields related to computer science. I get to do the hardware element as well and physically build circuits. And there's computer science related math classes, there's a few classes on design, just everything seems so cool. And obviously there's the coding, which is what I'm most excited about. I think I also heard a lot about supervision and being able to work in a small group and discussing the problems more in depth at a higher level also really excites me. So I think, obviously, again, the biggest thing would be how Trinity and Cambridge structure classes as a whole. Another thing you mentioned was how you mentioned this in an email to me about how, your academic lineage includes Galileo and Newton. And that is something that I would be hugely excited about too, if I were to go to Cambridge. And then the campus is beautiful. I've been there as a kid, and I'm planning to go back there in March to tour Trinity. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to come visit, and I can't wait to take a look around again.
Well, you're most welcome. We offer this to anybody who has got an offer like you, or anybody who is a prospective applicant who is deciding, okay, I might apply next year. Then people who are in that situation can just ask us, and they're most welcome to come and have a tour of Trinity. We are very happy for people to just have a look and see how happy they would be if they actually came. So it's something that anybody who's thinking about this seriously can do that even before they send in their application, or after if they've been accepted, of course. So I look forward to seeing you then.
Absolutely. I look so forward to meeting you and the students and seeing the campus. It is super exciting.
Well, no, in normal times, this would have already happened, because normally the interviews are a time when you come to Cambridge in December and you see all of Cambridge by yourself, and then you have the face-to-face interview, which we had to do by video for the past couple of years, and we hope it will finish at some point and we'll go back to the usual thing. But yes, it's good that that you're able to come around and have a look. So you've come a long way, but it's still just the first step of an incredibly exciting path that you're about to start. Now, this thing you've chosen of doing computer science at the university, at the top university, was this inspired by someone in particular? I mean, you said your mom went to Cambridge. Of course, that must be one of your role models, I guess. Are there any others?
Well, I think in computer science, one huge role model is Professor Fei-Fei Li. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yes, from Stanford.
Yes, Stanford professor, incredibly accomplished. She basically started off the current boom in neural networks through her ImageNet competition. And when I went to Stanford's AI for All program, that was one of her projects that she'd organized. And she is just incredible. She has made so many contributions towards AI currently. So she's definitely been a huge role model and encouraging me to pursue computer science. I have also applied to Stanford University Early Action, and I've been admitted there as well. And I think that was also due to her influence. I made that choice to apply there as well.
Oh, wow.
Another great role model I had, not necessarily in computer science, was Professor Jenny Hoffman from Harvard. When I was in middle school, I competed in math counts, which is the biggest middle school math competition in the US. And I scored as one of the top 4 students in my state qualifying for nationals. And at that time, I heard there was another girl from my town many, many years ago who had also qualified. And I researched her and found out she became a physics professor at Harvard. So I reached out to her, telling her, how incredible I thought her work was, and we connected. And the summer after 10th grade, she offered me, and 10th grade, I was 16 at the time. When I was 16, she offered me a research internship doing physics at her lab. And at the time, I'd never even taken a high school physics course before. So this was, quite the experience. And unlike high school classes, the answers were never neatly printed at the back of a textbook. I had to find all the answers by my own efforts. But she was so supportive. She was there for me throughout the entire process. And I discovered actually a love for research science at her lab as well. So I think these two women, Professor Fei-Fei Li and Professor Hoffman, have been hugely inspiring to me, and they've encouraged me to both pursue STEM at the highest levels and also to give back to the community around me and to hopefully work with the next generation of girls, as I've been doing with my nonprofit organization.
Wow. And how will you be keeping up your nonprofit once you go to university and become super busy with coursework and all this stuff?
Sure. So I've given that a lot of thought. This year, what I've done is I've reached out to some of the top scorers from last year's competition, many of whom were in 8th grade, which is the last year of middle school in America, and this year are entering 9th grade. And I've asked them if they would volunteer. And I currently have a group of extremely talented young girls who are helping me develop the problem set, who are helping with marketing efforts, who are already going to be helping set up the award ceremony. And I'm hoping that these girls can play a larger and larger role in the years to come. And these girls are incredibly talented. And hopefully every year I can invite back some of the past winners to create a network of volunteers who can make it bigger and better.
Wow, that I'm really impressed about your outreach efforts. I think I should take some private lessons from you on that. And
Thank you so much.
so you are very good at this, obviously, and I would like you to give me some advice on how to make a better job of attracting brilliant young women to computer science, in particular to computer science at Cambridge and at Trinity. What should I do? What should we be doing that we are not doing enough of? Obviously, we're not doing enough because there's not so many who apply. I mean, we take the good ones who apply, as you've seen, but we would like to have more that apply because that's the main deficiency at the moment.
Well, I think certainly a great thing you're doing is your YouTube channel. I'm sure for a lot of the extremely talented girls who are checking out Cambridge and Trinity, seeing some of the extremely accomplished girls that you have interviewed and, those videos are on your channel, that could be extremely inspiring. I think maybe another thing is to work with girls in middle school and starting out in high school, and to kind of show them a bit about what computer science is like. Maybe if you guys could create a program or a camp at Cambridge for these girls to participate in, something to get them interested and hooked early on, that could be a great option.
So when you say early on, what age would you target, be given your experience?
I'd say probably like anywhere between 12 to 16 would be a great time to find girls who have an interest in computer science and encourage them to continue pursuing it in university and to attend Trinity.
Right. And besides the brand name, come to Cambridge to do this boot camp or whatever it is, what would attract a talented, but let's say not super self-confident young girl to come to an initiative like this?
That is a bit of a difficult question. I think in my personal initiatives, it's definitely been easier to attract girls who have the pre-existing confidence. I think probably the best thing would just be to send out a message, whether it's through an email or a video, basically saying that, we welcome girls of all abilities and, just it's important to give it a try. You don't know how much potential you have or, what you can do or what interests you will find. I think just making sure that it's clear that you're welcoming all of these students. And I think that way even girls with less confidence might be like, if everyone is welcome, I might want to give it a go. And soon they could discover that they'd be incredible in computer science.
Yeah, well, let's just do a bit of that, okay? We are here. We have some audience. I have no idea who watches the channel, but I hope that some of these would be, 12 to 16-year-old girls who are great, but don't really believe that they are. And it's up to someone else to talent scout them. And you could be someone who sends them something they will believe more than if it's an old man like me saying to them. So speak to those girls now and say what you want to say to them.
Sure. So I think this is coming right off the top of my head, but
yeah,
what I'd like to say is that you should always believe in yourself. And it's important to give new things a try, even if you think you're not going to succeed, even if it's completely outside of your comfort zone. You never know when you're going to find a new passion or even just something that's super fun. For example, recently I competed in my school's Shakespeare recital contest, which was completely random. But even though I didn't win, I had so much fun in the process. And I think that's something huge, that even if you're not sure you can make it big, it's never too late to try something new. And I believe in you. And, at Trinity, at Cambridge, I'm sure there will be people there for you who will help you learn and grow. And you should just give it a try.
Thank you, Natalie. I think that hearing these sincere words from one who's almost their age is much more powerful than hearing it from people like me. So I'm grateful to have you say that, and I hope that some of them, like you have watched some of the videos I did last year, Some of them will watch your video, and then the next year will tell me, oh yes, and the reason I applied is because I saw that video with Natalie Shell.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, Professor Stajano, you are actually incredibly inspiring, and you're, a big part of the reason why I chose Trinity. But if some young girls could see my videos, I would be honored.